Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Report. The mission of the show really is to empower you to go out and build generational wealth with real estate. And our guest today is the epitome of that. So excited to have him with us. I'll introduce him here in a moment. I'm your host, Chris Berg, head of business development for Abernathy Holdings. We go out and build self-storage. I'm going to say today across the Sun Belt. We are expanding our area. So if you're somebody out there that has got some dirt, some sites out there in the Sun Belt you think might fit, please contact us. We'd love to do some work with you. Join me today, visionary leader of Welborn Ventures, Austin Welborn. They also are in the self-storage space. They've got a really interesting background in real estate. So we're going to talk about that and why they ended up choosing self-storage as their premier focus and asset class. So Austin, great to see you and welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you today.
Yeah, me too. You and I had a great conversation. So he and I just met recently at the ISS. It's a big storage expo in Vegas. We had a great conversation yesterday about our discussion today. So let's just start with a little bit of your background, because I know your family's got an extensive background in real estate. But one of the reasons I think this is going to be such a powerful conversation for people is in Vegas, your dad talked about self-storage as an asset class. And one of the things I really loved, he's like, hey, this is our legacy assets. We're going to build these assets as legacy assets. We're not going to turn and flip them. And so it gives you maybe a different, I guess, buy box and investment strategy than what we have at Abernathy Holdings. So it'll be fun to sort of see how those two things diverge. So let's just start with your background, my friend.
Yeah. So my background is, so my father and I were both civil engineers, and, he had a civil engineering company that he built up to be a very successful company and sold it back in 2006. That was about when I was getting into my civil engineering career and started working as a civil engineer for quite some time. And then, after he sold his company, he started doing some investing in office buildings, apartments. He built his first self-storage in 2006. And I was on my path doing my civil engineering. He kind of was finished with his path, retired at 48 years old. So he had an early retirement for him. Well, I was just getting into my career, and, we were on our individual paths, and we both decided one day, hey, I've always been interested in his investing career and his investing path. And he's been a good mentor to me and always wanted to get into that business. And after I had gotten some of my civil engineering experience, we decided, hey, let's team up and let's get after it. Let's go build some cool stuff and find some good investments and really try and build some generational wealth, like you had mentioned earlier. And that's really the goal of all of this, is to, build something that can last a long time, last generations to come. And, that's really been our focus. And it gives all of us an opportunity to, really share the wealth with, like I have two sisters and they're in the business, and my dad wants to pass that information on to us. And along the way, he's been a great mentor and had great connections and other mentors. And you meet some really cool people that are really smart along the way. And you learn some really cool little tidbits about investing, because everybody looks at it a little bit differently. So back in 2017 is when we really kind of kicked it off and said, hey, let's do this. He's doing his investing in apartments and building those. And we wanted to get into it and said, all right, let's get a business plan together and let's start looking at some investments, and started with apartments. We built one together in 2017, and that was fun, but wasn't ideal. Apartments can be a headache. And I'm sure if anybody's ever invested in apartments and built them themselves, dealt with tenants, it can be a headache. So, we sold our apartments and decided, hey, let's do storage. The one that he built back in 2006 was just kicking butt, and, he was operating it. And we said, hey, this is a class that is a little, under the radar somewhat at that time, not as much as it was back in 2006. 2018, it was getting a lot more traction as far as, people seeing the value and that it could be a really good industry as an asset class to get into. So in 2018, we said, all right, we're done with apartments. They're out. We're storage guys now. Let's dig into it. And, because I wanted to get really good at it. Right. So I want to focus. I don't want to do 10 different things and be okay at each one of those. I want to get really good at storage. I want to learn the intricacies of the business, the investing side, how we look at these deals, how we operate them, and we get really good at that. And then we can just rinse and repeat, keep going, That's kind of a little bit of our background, civil engineers, and just turned investors and trying to build some generational wealth for our family.
There's so many different ways to approach this asset class, this business. And so let's go back to, you mentioned, hey, we put together a business plan, we bought an apartment, then we said, okay, maybe this isn't for us. You moved into more self-storage. And what I want to do is just kind of break it down from perspective where you look at, Abernathy Holdings, we're looking to go out and do 4, 8 a year, put together a nice 6-pack, 8-pack, then sell that off as a portfolio. You guys have got a much different strategy, but again, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong, just different from a standpoint. You're looking, hey, Chris, these are legacy assets for us. We want to be heavily involved in the community. So take us back to the business plan piece and then how you said, okay, now we're going to do self-storage. And then what are you doing now to go, this is where we feel good about buying, building, things like that?
Yeah. So our, the way we look at a project is, we're going to keep this and it's going to be in our family for a long time, right? We build and hold. And we're looking at what's this going to look like 10 years from now as an investment, not like what's it going to look like after we get our certificate of occupancy and how much is it worth to offload, which that's a model too. I mean, everyone has their different models. Ours are just, we build, hold, keep it. And we have a different view. We look at it through a little bit different lens. And it allows us to, take a little bit more pride in what we're building and possibly have a little bit different, construction types on certain things. Because maybe we know that isn't the best 10 years from now because we learned in our last facility, we use this type of roofing and it doesn't last. So let's spend a little bit extra right now to save a lot, 10 years down from the road. So we look at it more of a long-term asset and, not to say, everything's for sale, right? And, in business, if you're not a good businessman, if you say no, it's not for sale because everything's always for sale at the right price, right? But our model is to build and keep and operate, for the long time. So maybe one day I can hand it down to my kids.
So are you going in looking at just strictly what you're predicting the cash flow to be long-term? Like for us, we're looking at, hey, 3 to 5 year IRRs. What's our yield on cost? I would presume those metrics probably not as prevalent to you guys, just from the standpoint, hey, this could be a 50-year asset for us. So what are those metrics?
Yeah, and we do look at your IRRs, 3 to 5. You run those numbers just to see what the investment looks like when you are doing an underwriting on it. You're analyzing the investment, but it's more so. You look at it at a value standpoint, at what, cap rate are these standardly trading at right now? 5 cap, 6 cap, what's our value on this going to be? What's our initial investment going to be? And our goal on all of our projects, when we look at it from the very beginning, is we're going to have to do an initial capital investment to buy the land. You're going to have to, put some more money into soft costs and then get your construction loan. You have to have a certain ratio to that, right? So what is our investment into this project? And then after we're done building it, can we refinance and get all of our cash out now? So we have to create value in that asset in the storage facility to now, once we've built it, we can refinance. And the goal is to take all that money that we put in and now we get it back and we can take that same kind of pot of money and go to the next one and do the next one. And so that's how we look at it, a cash flow standpoint as well, but that's not necessarily the only thing we're looking at in the beginning because it doesn't necessarily need a cash flow right away. And it's probably not, it's going to take 5, 7 years to possibly get good cash flow coming in from these assets. And that's fine. We're creating value. We're a value play right now. And we know in 10 years, they're going to be great cash flowing assets. We know that,
So what I'm curious about then, and if you're comfortable walking me through this, like, again, for us, I can say, hey, you know what, we're looking at a 9 yield on cost, 17% plus IRR. So those are some of the metrics that jump out to us to go yay, nay. Because as you know, there's a bunch of sites I'm sure that you're getting thrown at you from brokers, them trying to get you to buy it. Walk me through your buy box as you're looking at a site. What are some of the most important things? Is it population? Is it what are
so Chris, we We look at all the standard, metrics is you look at your, vehicles per day by there. You look at your demographics, what's your, 2 mile radius, 3 mile radius, depending on where you're at, how big your radius for your population is going to be, what your median household income is. And then you look at, the per capita square foot for storage. That is essentially telling you the density of how much storage is in that area based on how many people are there. And those numbers can change. We like to be around 7 square feet of storage per capita. So per person in an area is what we usually like to be at. But depending on the demographics, it could go up from there. But one of our main needle points is going to be at, what is our square foot per capita piece of it. And also, how many facilities are there? Sometimes it's as simple as our buy box being looking at a map, typing in self-storage and saying, hey, there's not a facility right there. There's a little hole. No one's there. All right, let's go look for a piece of land in that area. And it's as simple as that. And then we start digging into the numbers. But it's, sometimes you can overcomplicate it with the numbers and say, hey, let's go back. Let's take a bird's eye view here and say, hey, there's just not a storage facility around here. Let's build one. There's people that live all around here.
Are you the one that's hunting for the dirt? Or are you reaching out to brokers and say, hey, man, find me some dirt in this particular 3-mile radius?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. I mean,
Okay.
Brokers are a valuable asset to what we do. They spend the time. They have their, they got a bead on the market. They've got, they're talking to owners. They're working deals, and we definitely use brokers, but we also do a little bit of our own searching as well and trying to get land under contract ourselves. You kind of need, because a little bit of both. You can't do it all. So we utilize brokers quite a bit and also do our own, searching for land.
Nice. And so let's talk about the legacy piece and really building that generational wealth and the perspective you go in. I'm assuming because of that, sort of walk us through your thought process and how do you see yourself then being a part of that community? Because you've got 3 sites now, one that you're about to build.
Yep.
And the goal is, I think you shared with me that roughly like 1 a year. Is that a pretty fair assessment?
Yeah. That's our goal. About 1 a year is usually a turnover that we're going after. It can vary, a year and a half or 2 years, or maybe we can find the right piece of dirt, sooner, and we lock it down and we can maybe do 2 at once. But our goal is a year on average of over, time to be about a year. So in 10 years, we'll have 10 facilities. And that's when you look back 10 years and you have 10 facilities, that's a pretty good number. Yeah. for a small group like us, right?
Very good number. Yes.
Yeah.
That'll make your grandkids and your kids very happy.
Yeah. But as far as the, the legacy piece and being a part of the community. So, one thing I wanted to, discuss with you is, a lot of investors, people that are, maybe looking at getting into the storage industry, and they get into this decision and crossroads of, do I manage it myself or do I hire out the management process? And each one has its own benefits. We decided to manage them ourselves because we wanted to, one, learn more about the business. And the only way to do that is be in the trenches, with the managers, understand your strain points within the operations, understand, what's important to customers. Because at the end of the day, the customers are the ones that are making your investment a good investment. So what's important to them, right? How do you treat the customers the way you would want to be treated renting a storage unit? And it's not all about bottom line, right? Sometimes it's about the customer interaction, the face-to-face, and having a good relationship. And so we decided to manage them ourselves, and we've created a management team. I've got my younger sister running the operations right now, and she's just killing it. And, that part of it has been a really important aspect for how we look at investments now, because, we look at it in terms of, we understand how it operates now. So we can maybe do a slightly different unit mix, or we can maybe build a slightly different product because we know in that area, what is our demographic? Are we in a heavy distribution commercial area where we might have some auxiliary businesses that are going to need bigger units? Or are we in a high density where there's a lot of apartments or a college, dorm rooms where they're going to need some smaller units, and you want to tailor it to that. And, what are going to be important to the customers? What are those pieces of your business that are going to make them rent with you other than, the public storage up the street, right? And so having that family owned, family operated piece to it, we've found people love it. Our customers, they just are so glad that, they're keeping it within the community. They're saying, hey, you guys live up the road. You guys, have ties here, so-and-so, and I went to school with them, and, family owned, we want to make sure to keep our business within, our community. And that carries a lot of value to people. They'll choose you over somebody else, and they can call us, they can pick up the phone, and they'll get a hold of the manager. And if they have to get a hold of the owners, they'll give us a call and we'll be on the phone with them right away. It's not going through 20 different, phone calls to get to someone. It's like, hey, we're here. Let's fix the problem right now. Let's go.
I'm curious because there's this big conversation right now with the REITs that are really dropping the public rates dramatically. And then they're starting to raise rates, once they get the customers in the door, maybe 90 days, 6 months in. And so in some of the conferences I've been at lately, they've suggested to ownership like yourself going, hey, if you're getting feedback in your community that they're not liking to see the rates raise so fast, maybe go out and market and say, hey, come join us. We won't raise your rates for a year. Are you having any of those kind of marketing conversations internally with your team at this point?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've done that exact thing that you said, where we tell them, hey, here's our rate, and we're going to lock you in for a year. We will not raise you for a year. Yeah. But our rates are going to be higher than the public storage up the road, the U-Haul up the road. We're going to be a little higher. And I think it's important in this industry, and it's going to be even more important in the years coming, is the upfrontness and honesty about your rates, how you handle the customers, because you got to understand that this customer, maybe they can only afford $85 a month for a 10 by 10. And that's what they go into expecting. And in a year, they're paying $185. And now it's way out of their budget. So you're putting them in a financially stressful situation, and they might default. They might lose their belongings, and nobody wants people to lose their stuff. It's part of the business, which is unfortunate, and we have to auction people off. But we want to be upfront so people know what to expect. We tell them, hey, we can lock your rate in, or, hey, this is a promotional rate and it's going to go up to this after 6 months. And here's what your bill is going to be. And so you go into it knowing what to expect, and people respect that, and people say, okay, I appreciate your honesty, because I got raised, 7 times in 1 year over at this last facility I was at, and I just can't handle that. I need to know what my bills are going to be. And I believe that people see storage as almost a utility type bill. It's a necessity to a lot of people. So it's not, an auxiliary bill where you're going out to eat dinner and you can just cut back on it.
Right.
For budgeting, right? This is a utility. It's a necessity. It's a monthly bill, like a phone bill.
So I'm curious what kind of feedback you're getting from customers, because AJ Osborne's talked about a similar strategy that you're using. And he said, you know what, it's been interesting to watch the customer's reaction, where they'll come in and he'll share with them exactly what's going to happen if they go to a REIT. And they're like, I don't care. It's, $55 this month. I'm going to go take this deal and I'll see what happens. But it sounds like you might be getting a different feedback than that.
Yeah. And we get those people as well. They'll say, hey, they're just cheaper. They say, we're going to go over there. They're cheaper. And we say, great, go for it. That's your decision, which is fine. And I would say we get a good amount of people that come back and they say, hey, you were right. So that's why I see, yeah, exactly. They say, okay, you were right. And we're like, oh, by the way, our rates have gone up since the last time we talked to you. So now it's this much. Yeah. But, we get a good amount of people that come to us from some of those REITs, and people have to experience it, one time to know how it works, as far as that whole game plan, as far as raising rates, doing that. Every 3 months you get a bump, and that kind of model. Yeah. You got to experience it, and if they've rented storage before and they've had that experience, then you can have the conversation where they appreciate your honesty and upfrontness in the pricing.
So I want to know from you, what's been the biggest surprise in storage? Because as you go out there, many people that maybe haven't dipped their toe in the waters of self-storage, like, come on, it's some cement and some steel. Like, how tough can this be, right? And yet you start getting, I can see you already shaking your head.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wait a second. There's zoning, there's unit, like there's a lot more to this than I think the
Yeah.
outside world might anticipate. So what surprised you the most?
I mean, everything's a surprise every day, sure seems like. I mean, when you're going through entitlements and you're working with the cities and figuring easements out, you get surprised from left field all the time, right? Every project is its own beast. It's not the same for any project. If you're trying to get it rezoned, if you're, in front of the city council and all, everything is a surprise. You don't know what's important to what city, right? And it was same with any investment, right? When you're getting rezoning and you're trying to show your value to the community. And, one thing when we do our, some rezoning cases, the city council likes that we're local and we're long-term holders, because they might not be in favor of someone that's selling to a REIT and it's not really going to give to the community as much. You tell them, hey, like, we're part of this community. We keep these long-term, we build them with high quality because they're our product that we deal with every day. And it's going to be a good facility. It's going to be run right. We're going to give back to the community and we're going to be a good service to the neighborhoods around us. And so, as far as surprises, I mean, zoning, all of that is always a surprise. Each one is a different case, but, construction is pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot of surprises there, just headaches with construction. But I would say, I mean, our surprises is going to be really the customers and some of the crazy uses they have for storage, because you go into it thinking people just have Christmas, holiday stuff. And man, people use storage for some wild things. Businesses, they just store some of the craziest stuff, and also there's times where people they just have old stuff that they never touched for 10 years and it's just old clothes, but we're here to help store it, But I would say that would be the biggest surprise, is just seeing the way that storage is used, because you have an idea of what your business is and what the service is, but we have 1,000 different uses out there for 1,000 different people, contractors and other online businesses and drop shipping people. And it's just, the list goes on. It's just crazy. And it's fun. It's fun to learn about their businesses too. And why it's such a good use and why we're a good service to them.
Let's talk about that, because as you know, zoning for self-storage can be very, very challenging. Some cities are like, you guys don't produce enough tax revenue, or there's not enough employment. And there's a lot of reasons for them to see it through that lens. And yet what I've been sharing with people, and I'd like to get your feedback, and it sounds like you're seeing this, is that yes, and one of the beauties of self-storage is we're like a small business incubator, right? It's for that person that's selling stuff out of Amazon. Like, we can give them a very viable place where they can store their product. It's not over expensive, and start to build that business now. Maybe they move into their own industrial site in the future, and good for them. So speak to what you're seeing there. And do you agree that this can be a really good incubator for small businesses?
100%. And we've seen that kick up, post COVID. A lot of people going out and starting their own businesses, and they're just starting off and they're growing, but they're not growing big enough to where they can rent out an entire industrial park, but they need that incubator space. And that's been kicked up quite a bit since COVID. And that's been a really good part of the business. And so when you go to a zoning meeting, you're talking with the cities, and you're right, they don't necessarily like storage that much. It doesn't bring the tax revenue that they want for the city, but it brings a good service to the community that people need. And that's what we try to communicate whenever we're in a zoning case, when we're talking to the city, is, I know it doesn't bring a lot of taxes, but we're a service to the community, and people need this and they want this in their backyard. They don't want to drive 30 minutes to go store stuff that they want to go pick up real quick on the way home, because this is an extension of their home. A lot of people, it is their second garage, and they have tools, they have all their belongings, and a lot of people will visit it, once a week, or maybe even every day. Some people, use it that much. And so trying to communicate that is important, and creating that value and showing that value of our business is really important, to the cities. And then they kind of start to see, okay, this isn't just, some industrial type situation. This is a part of our community, neighborhood community is self-storage. And that brings value. And it helps when you're talking about how much tax revenue you're bringing in,
Exactly.
So that's our main communication point that we get across, is because a lot of people at the cities don't necessarily understand that as much. So it's important to describe your business and the value it brings to the community.
All right, my friend, I know you're going to play some golf with some gentlemen from Abernathy. So I just want to give you a chance to give you the last word. Anything else you want to add or share that I'm not asking you?
I mean, I think we really covered a good amount of it. I mean, I think, it's important. For one thing I wanted to just key on is, for people that are getting into storage and investing, is just understanding that it's because I think there's this idea out there that storage is just a passive asset that just spits out money every month for you. And that's not the case. When you want to get into the business, it is a business. It's not a passive asset. If you want to run the business, run it like a business and care about it like a business, and that'll be successful, because self-storage can be unsuccessful. And that happens quite a bit. So, if you're getting into storage, treat it like a business, understand the intricacies, go to conferences, meet people like you, Chris, meet people like Abernathy. Those guys care about the business. They want to build a good product and they care about the customers, So that's one thing I just wanted to point on, is just that fact. I think it gets overlooked a lot in discussions and talks and high level investment talks with people. Self-storage is a live and thriving business that takes a lot of care, and you want to care for it. You want to run a good business, and that's the most important part. So learn as much as you can, get in the trenches,
Well said. Because early on we talked about, I think people just think, oh, hey, cement, a couple of things of steel, and just have the mailbox money show up. And it's not quite that simple.
It's not cut and dry like that. It's not cut and dry. And not everyone's cut out for it,
Yeah.
And that's fine. But you just gotta, put the work in and, and be a student of the game.
Very well said. Watch your game film. So if people want to get a hold of you, my friend, how do they do that?
Say what?
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can go to our website, www.welbornventures.com. They can get a hold of me through there. And, we always love to partner with people, see what other ventures are out there. If anybody has any other, properties that they would like, or any sort of, just talks about storage, questions, anything like that. I love to talk to guys about storage, especially young guys that are wanting to get into the industry. I love having those conversations. That's why I love Abernathy and those guys, because we're all young, ambitious. We want to learn the business. And so, go to our website, get a hold of me through there, and would love to just chat and try and see what stuff we can build, see if we can get after it.
Love it, man. Thank you for the time. Again, welbornventures.com, welbornventures.com. They epitomize the mission of this show. There you go.
You can spell it right there. It's 1 hour.
And then you're good. So, and really, they epitomize the mission of the show in regards to building generational wealth with real estate. They talked about the long-term holds of these assets, and it'll be fun to see how it impacts your kids and grandkids. So thanks again, Austin. I'm sure that we will do this again in the future, my friend.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thank you.